Very much, Madam President. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I want to begin with gratitude because nobody gets to stand in a place like this on their own. To my wife, Chloe, you have been my partner in everything. You have put up with a lot of long nights at this Capitol, extended absences, a lot of cold mornings without me there to make you tea. I love you so much. And Elijah, Daddy will be home very soon. To my moms and my sister, thank you for teaching me what family is, that the sense of family comes from the commitment that we make to each other to work through the hard times so we can enjoy the good ones. We've been through a lot of both, and we've been able to go through it together. To my clerk, Jacob, who Elijah calls Deacup. To my prior clerks, Dylan, Jackson, and in particular to my first clerk, the late Linda Hansen. Thank you for keeping me organized, mostly on schedule, hydrated, and caffeinated. To every page, I am still alive, by the way. To every page, to every Senate staffer, to Secretary Smithson and his incredible staff, to every LSA staffer, every DAS staffer, and every state trooper who keeps this chamber, this building running, functioning, and safe, thank you. You are the people who all too often are overlooked, but you are the ones who make this building work, and you don't get the credit as often as you deserve, but you have it from me. To my constituents, past and present, in Cedar, Johnson, and Muscatine counties, thank you for trusting me to represent you, your families, your communities in this chamber. It has been an honor, even if it hasn't always been a pleasure, to have the chance to serve alongside every single person in this building. And to my constituents in particular, the chance to learn from you, to build relationships with you, to fight for you when you've needed a champion has been the honor of a lifetime. And speaking of fighting, Senator Bisognano, when I was first running for the Iowa Senate, someone told me that the key to success in politics was to be both likable and disagreeable, which I did not really understand until I met you. There is probably nobody in this chamber from whom I have learned more or with whom I have fought more, both at each other's side and against each other. But as Scripture tells us in the book of Proverbs, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. But although politics can make us sharp and hard, you've also taught me that politics does not have to make us cold. Thank you. Senators Bennett, Trone Garriott, Blake, Knox, Kreinbrink, Weiner, Rosenboom, Dotzler, Sinclair, thank you for your warm words. And to all my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, I've disagreed with some of you loudly and frequently and often at some length, although Senator Dotzler, maybe not quite as lengthy as your disagreements. But I have never once in 8 years believed that anyone in this chamber came here for the wrong reasons. We may disagree, and sometimes we disagree about just about everything, but I've always believed that every single person in this room is here because we love Iowa, and that's important. When I was first elected in 2018, I was only 27 years old. I was the youngest member of the Iowa Senate. Today, I'm 34, and I'm still the youngest member of the Iowa Senate. When I was first elected, I never would have believed that I would become the youngest ever Democratic leader or the youngest ever former Democratic leader. I would have been shocked to learn that I would serve during a global pandemic. I would never have guessed how much I would learn about such a wide variety of topics or how much time I would spend debating scope of practice issues. I had no idea how to pronounce Sina Dia, or that we all say Sine Die instead. I did not realize why it was so funny that then Senate President Charles Schneider tried to insist that we should all say yay, given that that is literally what is on the voting button. I had never once heard the expression camel's nose under the tent, but I now have heard it enough times for a lifetime. And while a retirement speech is a funny place to offer advice to people who are not yet here, I hope the fact that I've been able to retire from the Iowa Senate at the age of 34 is an invitation to young Iowans all across our state. There is a reason why the founders of Iowa put into our Constitution that you only have to be 25 years old to run for the Iowa Senate. So if you are watching this, please consider this an invitation to young people across the state, no matter what party you belong to. If you want to build a better future for everyone who calls Iowa home, you can do this job. It is not easy work. It takes you away from your family, but it is important work. And if you decide to serve the people of our state in elected office, I have 5 short, important lessons that I've learned that I hope that you will carry with you. The first lesson is one that I learned from my first clerk, Linda Hansen. Linda worked as my clerk for many years, and we lost Linda last year. But at her celebration of life last summer, her daughter shared a simple passage from a journal that Linda kept in her final months. You don't have to figure it all out just today. It's a simple lesson, but especially in this building, in this line of work, you don't have to figure it all out just today. Has gotten me through a lot of challenging days in the last year, and I know will be a guiding light in the work ahead. The second lesson is one that I was told before I got here, but only came to really understand with the experience of serving in the Iowa Senate. As a legislator, it is our job to represent the people to the government, not to represent the government to the people. Our job is to represent the people. And that lesson might sound simple or obvious, but it is not simple or obvious. It is, I have learned, in fact, one of the hardest lessons to hold on to in a building like this one, because this building has a gravity to it. And if you let it, that gravity pulls you towards the lobbyists who can get on your calendar. It pulls you to the big donors who can get you on the phone. It pulls you to the caucus room, or sometimes to the Senate floor, but away from discussions that happen on the back bench or at home at the kitchen table. And the discipline of this job, the real discipline, is resisting that gravity every single day. And I have not always gotten it right, and nobody does. But that discipline, that focus on the job, representing our people, is the most important lesson that I am taking with me and that I can offer to whoever follows me. The third lesson is that the best ideas don't come from this building. They come from the people that we represent. And I appreciated Senator Bizignano, Senator Weiner both talking about the work that I did with a woman named Candy Evans. Candy lives in Gulfview Mobile Home Park in North Liberty, and I met Candy shortly after I was elected to the Senate. She and her neighbors own their homes, manufactured homes. They just don't own the land underneath. And in my first year here in 2019, an out-of-state investment firm from Utah bought the land under their community in 15 communities across Iowa. And this company tried to raise her monthly lot rent by 85% from one month to the next. Now, I would be pretty damn mad if my mortgage went up 58% next month, and this company was trying to raise by 58% the monthly lot rent for this community, which is home to many seniors, retirees who are on fixed incomes, working class Iowans struggling to provide for their families, Iowans who have worked hard and played by the rules, who thought that they had done everything right, who had saved up to buy their home, and who thought that they had solid ground underneath their feet until they found out otherwise. But Candy and her neighbors organized. They showed up at this Capitol. They told their story to anyone who would listen. And to the credit of everybody in this chamber, the vast majority of people here did. And we worked together, neighbors, advocates, colleagues on both sides of the aisle, to try to do something to protect our people. And while that fight is not yet finished, and the protections that Candy and her neighbors need, that tens of thousands of Iowans in mobile home parks all over the state need, those protections are not yet law, and I think about that a lot because this fight isn't over. But what I also know is that before I met Candy, before she came to this Capitol, most people in this building, myself included, did not fully understand what was happening to our own constituents, but we do now. And so the next time somebody stands up in this chamber to introduce mobile home protections, they're going to be standing on the foundation that Candy and her neighbors built. And that is how change happens. It's slower than I would like it to be, probably than any of us would like it to be, but it happens because ordinary people like Candy Evans refuse to let go of their commitment to change. And that is because there is nothing that is wrong with this state that cannot be fixed by what is right with this state. And what is right with Iowa is the people. It is people like Candy Evans. And every good thing that I have been a part of in this chamber started with an Iowan telling me something that I didn't know. And that's not going to change because that's the job here or anywhere else. The fourth lesson is one that I think most of us already know, but sometimes can be hard to remember in a building like this. In Iowa, our farmers know that rotating the crops is good for the soil. Pretty much every Iowan knows this. And I'm not saying this because I think that older is bad and younger is good. I don't believe that. Some of the wisest people I've worked with in this building have decades of institutional memory, and this chamber would be poor without them. What I'm saying is that in a healthy democracy, like a healthy field, it needs rotation. It needs new voices alongside experienced ones. It needs people who remember what it is like to pay off a student loan or afford childcare, or whether one of their generation is going to get to retire at all. It needs people who grew up with the climate crisis as a fact of life, not some theoretical distant future. Fresh soil and deep roots, you need both, and that's how you grow something that really lasts. And so to every young Iowan who is watching, this chamber needs you. Not someday, not in the future, we need you now. So take that first step. Run for school board, run for city council, run for the state house. Show up to a caucus, knock on a door, ask your neighbor what they're worried about, and then listen to the answer. Democracy is not a spectator sport. It never has been. And because of people like you, it never will be. And just because Senator Dotzler mentioned her, the fifth and final lesson that I learned came from my mother, Terry. And I really appreciate you mentioning her, Bill. Never, ever, ever give up. I came into this chamber in 2019 believing that Iowa's best days were ahead of us, and 8 years later, I believe that more than ever. I believe in Candy Evans and her neighbors. I believe in the teachers and the nurses and the line cooks and the iron workers and the laborers and the small-town librarians who are right now holding this state together with their hands, who, given half a fair shake, are going to build something remarkable in the years ahead. That is the Iowa that I know and love. And so I am leaving this chamber, but I am not leaving this work, not even a little bit. And whatever comes next to me, despite the half-hearted wishes from my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, it is going to be in service of the Iowa that we all love, the one that is outside of this building, full of people who every day are choosing to call Iowa home, choosing to stay here, to raise their kids here, to believe that their voice matters as much as anybody else's in this state, because they do. And so to the members who will keep serving in these seats after I depart, please take care of this place. It's a special place. It's not ours. We're simply borrowing it from the people who sent us here, from the Iowans who will come after us. Remember to rotate the crops, bring in new people, keep the door open, and thank you. Thank you to my colleagues, to my constituents, to my family. Thank you, Madam President.